साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ओम गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनां प्रवस्त्रमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पत आनुशृण्वोति विश्वेदसादनम्। ओम महागणाधिपतये नमः। हरि ओम। ओम केशवाय नमः, ओम नारायणाय नमः, ओम माधवाय नमः, ओम गोविंदाय नमः, ओम विष्णुवे नमः, मत्सूदनाय नमः, त्रिविक्रमाय नमः, वामनाय श्रीधराय नमः, ऋषिकेशाय नमः, पद्मनाभाय नमः, दामोदराय नमः, संकर्षणाय नमः, वासुदेवाय नमः, प्रद्युम्नाय नमः, अनिरुद्धाय नमः, पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः, दोक्षाय नमः, नारसिंहाच्युताय नमः, जनार्दनाय नमः, उपेन्द्राय नमः, हरे नमः, श्री कृष्णाय नमः। Dear friends, devotees, you came to the 60th chapter of Bhagavata Mahapurana, Dashamaskanda. In this chapter, we are going to see the Lord Krishna teases Queen Rukmini, and Rukmini gets upset, and Krishna consoled Rukmini as a joke. This chapter describes how Lord Krishna provoked anger in Queen Rukmini with joking words and then consoled her, thus demonstrating the opulence of the lovers' quarrel. One day, Lord Krishna sat at ease in Queen Rukmini's bedroom while she and her maidservants attended to him in various ways. Rukmini always responded to Sri Krishna's moods, whatever they might be. On this occasion, the Lord looked at Rukmini, whose beauty was faultless, and began to tease her. Previously, many wealthy kings worthy of you in their appearance and character wanted to marry you. In fact, your father and brother intended to give you in marriage to Shishupala. Why then did you accept such an unsuitable husband as me, who once renounced my kingdom and fled to the sea in fear of Jarasandha? Besides, I transgress worldly morality, and because I own nothing, I am dear to other paupers. Certainly, the well-to-do would not worship one such as me. Lord Krishna is telling like this, just to joke. When a man and a woman share the same social class, influence, physical beauty, and so on, marriage or friendship can flourish between them. But out of short-sightedness, you have accepted a husband who lacks every good quality and is glorified by beggars. Better you had married some prominent warrior, then you might have been happy in this life and the next. Your brother Rukmi and kings like Shishupala all hate me, and it was only to cut down their pride that I kidnapped you. But as for such things as body, home, wife, and children, I am indifferent to them, being the self-satisfied personality of Godhead, transcendental to all material affairs. Lord Sri Krishna stopped speaking, having destroyed Queen Rukmini's confidence that she was her husband's favorite. She began to cry, and soon she became stunned in extreme fear, pain, and sadness, and fell unconscious. Lord Krishna saw that she had misunderstood his joking, and thus he felt compassion for her. He picked her up from the floor and, caressing for her face, consoled her. I know you are totally attached to me. It was only out of eagerness to see your lotus feet adorned with a frown that I teased you. To joke with one's beloved is the highest enjoyment for householders. These words dispelled Rukmini's fear of rejection. Seeing that Krishna had spoken only in jest, she said, what you said about the two of us being unmismatched is actually true or not true. After all, no one is equal to you. The omnipotent master of the three principal deities, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. Rukmini went on to show how everything Krishna had said, denigrating himself, was actually glorification. Lord Krishna then spoke to Rukmini with deep affection. I did not intend to agitate your mind with my joking words. Rather, I wanted to demonstrate the strength of your chastity. Anyone who prays to me for sense gratification and happiness in family life is simply deluded by my illusory energy. Maya, such a person will take a low birth. Ordinary woman with corrupt desires cannot possibly worship me faithfully, as we have done. At the time of your marriage, you showed no interest in any of the royal suitors. Rather than you sent a Brahmana messenger for me. Thus, you are certainly the most beloved of all my consorts. In this way, the Lord of the universe, Sri Krishna, took pleasure in joking with the goddess of fortune in her form as Rukmini. And in a similar fashion, he fulfilled all the duties of a householder in each palace of his other queens also. This is where the people are surprised how Lord Krishna can manage so many wives, because he got an expansion. He is present in everybody's house, he is present at the same time. This is why he fulfilled all the duties of the householder in each palace of his other queens. See this text one, Shukovacha. This is the summary I described. Now I'm elaborating the shlokas. Karhichukamasinam swatad salpastam jagat gurum patim paryachare dreshti vejanena sukhe janai. Once in the company of her maidservants, Queen Rukmini was personally serving her husband, the spiritual master of the universe, by fanning him as he relaxed on her bed. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti poetically notes that in this chapter, Rukmini Devi is like a fragrant camphor crushed on the grinding store of adored Krishna's speech. In other words, the lovely, chastity qualities of Rukmini will become manifest as a result of Lord Krishna's apparently intensive, insensitive words, just as a camphar's fragrance becomes manifest when granules of camphor are crushed by a grinding stone. The Acharya further points out that Rukmini is personally serving the Lord because he is Jagat Guru. He is Jagat Guru, the spiritual master of the universe, and Patin and her husband. The union, unborn personality of Godhead, and the supreme controller who creates, maintains, and then devours this universe simply as his play, take birth among the Yadu dynasty to preserve his own laws. As stated in the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharmam tu Sakshad Bhagavat Pritham. Religion is the law established by God. The word setu means a boundary or limit. As in the case of a dike, earth is raised up on both sides of a river or canal so that the water will not deviate from its proper path. Similarly, God establishes laws so that people who follow them can peacefully progress along the path back home, back to Godhead. These laws, which are meant to guide human behavior, are thus called setu. A further note on the word setu, earth that is raised up to separate agricultural fields or to form a causeway or bridge is also called setu. Thus, in the ninth canto, the Bhagavatam uses the word setu to indicate the bridge Lord Ramachandra built to Sri Lanka. Since the laws of God act as a bridge to take us from the material to the life to the liberated spiritual life, this additional sense of the word setu certainly enriches its cause here, its use here. Queen Rukmini's quarters were extremely beautiful, boasting a canopy hung with the brilliant strings of pearls as well as effulgent jewels serving as lamps. Garlands of jasmine and other flowers hung here and there, attracting warm swarms of humming bees, and the spotless rays of the moon shone through the holes of the lattice windows. As Aguru's incense drifted out of the window holes, my dear king, the breeze wafting the scent of the Parijata grew carried the mood of a garden into the room. There, the queen served her husband, the supreme lord of all the worlds, as he reclined upon an opulent pillow on her bed, which was as soft and white as foam of milk. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Rukmini's palace was quite famous then as now, and these descriptions give a glimpse into its opulence. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti adds that the word Amalai in this verse may also be read Arunai, which would indicate that when this pastime took place, the moon had just risen, bathing the entire palace in the beautiful ruddy moonshine. From her maidservant's hand, goddesses Rukmini took a yoke hair fan with a jeweled handle, and then she began to worship her master by fanning him. Her hand adorned with rings, bangles, and camera fan, Queen Rukmini looked resplendent, standing near Lord Krishna. Her jeweled ankle bells tinkled, and her necklace glittered, reddened by the kumkum from her breast, which were covered by the end of the sari. On her hips, she wore a priceless belt. As he contemplated her, the goddess of fortune herself, who desires only him, Lord Krishna smiled. The Lord assumed various forms to enact his pastimes, and he was pleased that the form of the goddess of fortune had assumed was just suitable for her to serve as his consort. Her charming face was adorned with curling hair, earrings, a locket on her neck, and the nectar of her bright, happy smile. The Lord then spoke to her as follows. Supreme Lord Krishna says, "My dear princess, you were sought after by many kings as powerful as the rulers of planets. They were all abundantly endowed with political influence, wealth, beauty, generosity, and physical strength. Since your brother and father offered you to them, why did you reject the king Chedi and all those other suitors who stood before you, maddened by Cupid? Why instead did you choose us, who are not at all your equal?" Terrified of these kings, O lovely browed one, we took shelter in the ocean. We have become enemies of a powerful man, and we practically abandoned our royal throne. O fine browed lady, women are usually destined to suffer when they stay with men whose behavior is uncertain and who pursue a path not approved by society. We have no material possessions, and we are dear to those who similarly have nothing. Therefore, O slender one, the wealthy hardly ever worship me. Like the Lord, his devotees are uninterested in material sense gratification, being awakened to the superior pleasure of Krishna consciousness. Those who are intoxicated by material wealth cannot appreciate the supreme wealth of the kingdom of God. Marriage and friendship are proper between two people who are equal in terms of their wealth, birth, influence, physical appearance, and capacity for good progeny, but never between superior and inferior. Oh, whether be not being foresighted, you did not realize this, and therefore you choose us as your husband, even though we have no good qualities and are glorified only by deluded beggars. Now you should definitely accept a more suitable husband, a first-class man of the royal order who can help you achieve everything you want, both in this life and the next. Lord Krishna continues to tease her, his beautiful wife, trying to provoke her loving anger. Kings like Sijupala, Salva, Jarasandha, and Dantavakra all hate me. Oh, beautiful third one, and so does your elder brother Rukmi. Also doesn't like me. It was to dispel the arrogance of these kings that I carried you away, my good woman, for they were blinded by the intoxication of power. My purpose was to curb the strength of the wicked. We are nothing for we care nothing for wives, children, and wealth, always satisfied within ourselves. We do not work for body and home, but like a light, we merely witness. Shukadeva Mahaswami Rukmini had thought herself especially beloved by the Lord because he never left her company. By saying these things to her, he vanquished her pride and then he stopped speaking. Goddess Rukmini had never before heard such unpleasantries from her beloved, the Lord of universal rulers, and she became frightened. A tremor arose in her heart, and in terrible anxiety she began to cry. With her tender foot effulgent with the reddish glow of her nails, she scratched the ground, and tears darkened by her eye makeup sprinkled her kumkum reddened breast. There she stood, face downwards, her voice choked up by extreme sorrow. Rukmini's mind was overwhelmed with unhappiness, fear, and grief. Her bangle slipped from her hand, and her fan fell to the ground. In her bewilderment, she suddenly fainted, her hair scattering all about as her body fell to the ground like a plantain tree blown over by the wind. Shocked by Lord Krishna's words, Rukmini could not understand that the Lord was only teasing, and thus she displayed these ecstatic symptoms of grief, which Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti characterizes as sattvika ecstasis, ranging from becoming stunned to disillusion. Seeing that his beloved was so bound to him in love that she could not understand the full meaning of his teasing, merciful Lord Krishna felt compassion for her. The Lord quickly got down from bed, manifesting four arms. He picked her up, gathered by her hair, and caressed her face with his lotus hand. The Lord manifested four hands so he could do all of these things simultaneously. Wiping her tear-filled eyes and her breast, which were stained by tears and grief, the Supreme Lord, the goal of his devotees, embraced his chaste wife, who desired nothing but him. O king, expert in the art of pacification, Sri Krishna elderly consoled pitiable Rukmini, whose mind was bewildered by his clever joking and who did not deserve so far. Supreme Lord said, O Vaidarbhi, do not be displeased with me. I know that you are fully devoted to me. I only spoke in jest, dear lady, because I wanted to hear what you would say. According to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti, Lord Krishna spoke the present verse because he thought that lovely Rukmini might be afraid he would again say something to disturb her, or that she might be angry at what he had done. I also wanted to see your face with lips trembling in loving anger, the reddish corners of your eyes, throwing sidelong glances, and the line of your beautiful eyebrows knit in a frown. The greatest pleasure worldly householders can enjoy at home is to spend time joking with their beloved wives. My dear timid and temperamental one, the word Bhamini indicates an angry, passionate, temperamental woman. Since lovely Rukmini did not become angry despite all provocation, the Lord is still speaking facetiously. Shukra Maharshi said, O king, Queen Vaidarbhi was fully pacified by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and understood that his words had been spoken in jest. Thus she gave up her fear that her beloved would reject her. Smiling bashfully as she cast charming, affectionate glances upon the faces of the Lord, the best of the males, Rukmini spoke the following, O descendant of Bharata. Rukmini says, actually, what you have said is true, O lotus-eyed one. I am indeed unsuitable for Almighty Personality of Godhead. What comparison is there between a Supreme Lord, who is a master of three primal deities and who delights in his own glory, and myself, a woman, mundane qualities, whose feet are grasped by fools? Yes, my lord, Urukrama, you lay down within the ocean as if afraid of the material modes, and thus in pure consciousness you appear within the heart as the supersoul. You are always battling against the foolish material senses, and indeed your servants reject the privilege of royal domain, which leads the blindness of ignorance. Your movements inscrutable, even for sages who relish the honey of your lotus feet, are certainly incomprehensible for human beings who behave like animals. And just as your activities are transcendental, O all powerful Lord, so too are those of your followers. You possess nothing because there is nothing beyond you. Even the great enjoyers of tribute, Brahma and other gods, pay tribute to you. Those who are blinded by their wealth and absorbed in gratifying their senses do not recognize you in the form of a death. But to the gods, the enjoyers of tribute, you are the most clever, you are the most dear as they are. You are the embodiment of all human goals and are yourself the final aim of the life. Desiring to attain you, O all powerful Lord, intelligent persons abandon everything else. It is they who are worthy of your association, not men and women absorbed in the pleasure and grief resulting from their mutual lust. Her Queen Rukmini refutes Lord Krishna's statement. Marriage and friendship are proper between the two people who are equal in terms of their wealth, birth, influence, physical appearance, and capacity for the good progeny, but never between a superior and inferior. In fact, only those who have been given up all such material conceptions of sense gratification and have taken exclusively to the Lord's loving service can understand who their man, friend, and companion is, Lord Sri Krishna herself, Sri Krishna himself. Knowing that great sages who have renounced the sannyasas, they proclaim your glories, that you are the supreme soul of all the worlds, and that you are so gracious that you give away even your own self. I choose you as my husband, rejecting Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the rulers of heaven, whose aspirations are all frustrated by the force of time, which is born from your eyebrows. What interest then could I have in any of their suitors? The Queen Rukmini's refutation of Lord Krishna's statement in text 16, there the Lord Krishna said, Bhikshubhi slagita mudaha. I am glorified by beggars. But when Queen Rukmini points out that these are so-called beggars are actually sages in the Paramahamsa stage of life. My lord, as a lion derives away lesser animals to claim his proper tribute, you drove off the assembled kings with the resounding twang of your saranga bow and then claimed me, your fair share. Thus it is sheer foolishness, my dear Gadagraja, for you to say you took shelter in the ocean out of fear of those kings. wanting your association, the best of kings, Anga, Vinaya, Vainya, Jayanta, Nausha, Gaya, and others, abandoned their absolute sovereignty and entered the forest to seek you out. How could those kings suffer frustration in this world? O lotus-eyed one. The aroma of your lotus feet, which is glorified by great saints, awards people liberation and is the abode of goddess Lakshmi. What woman would take shelter of any other man after severing that aroma? Since you are the abode of transcendental qualities, what mortal woman with this insight distinguish her own true interest would disregard that fragrance and depend instead on someone who is always subject to terrible fear. Because you are suitable for me, I have chosen you, the master and the supreme soul of all worlds, who fulfill our desires in this life and the next. May your feet, which give freedom from illusion by approaching their worshipper, give shelter to me, who have been wandering from one material situation to another. O infallible Krishna, let each of the kings you named become the husband of a woman whose ears have never heard of your glories, which are they sung in the assemblies of Shiva and Brahma. After all, in the households of such a woman, these kings live like asses, oxen, dogs, cats, and slaves. That's what Rukmini said to Krishna. A woman who fails to relish the fragrance of the honey of your lotus feet becomes totally befooled, and thus she accepts as her husband or lover a living corpse covered with the skin, whiskers, nails, head, hair, and body hair, and filled with flesh, bones, and parasites, feces, mucus, bile, and air. Those people are not like Krishna. That's why Rukmini rejects them. Here, Lord Krishna's chaste wife makes a quite unequivocal statement about material sense gratification based on the physical body. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments as follows on this verse on the authority of the statement Savai Payati Sayad Aktu Uktu Vayam Swayam. He should become one's husband who can remove all fear. Sri Krishna is the real husband for all women at all times. Thus, a woman who worships someone else as her husband simply worships a dead body. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti comments further, Rukmini thus considered that although the sweetness of Lord Krishna's lotus feet is well known, and although he possesses the eternal body full of knowledge and bliss, foolish women reject him. An ordinary husband's body is covered with on the outside of the skin and hair, otherwise being filled with the blood, feces, flesh, bile, and so on. It would be overwhelmed with flies and other vermin attracted by its bad smell and other offensive qualities. Those who have no practical experience of the beauty and purity of Krishna may be confused as such uncompromising denunciation of material bodily gratification. But those who are enlightened in Krishna consciousness will be enthused by such absolutely truthful statements. O lotus-eyed one, though you are satisfied within yourself and thus rarely turn your attention toward me, please bless me with a steady love for your feet. It is when you assume a predominance of passion in order to manifest the universe that you glance upon me, showing me what is indeed your greatest mercy. Actually, I don't consider your words false, Madhusudana. Quite often, an unmarried girl is attracted to a man, as in the case of Amba. Having refuted everything Lord Krishna said, Srimati Queen Rukmini, in a gracious frame of mind, now praises the truthfulness of his statements. In other words, she accepts that Lord Krishna used her as an example to elucidate ordinary female psychology. The king of Kashi had three daughters, Amba, Ambalike, Ambika, and Amba was attracted to Shalva. This story is narrated in the Mahabharata. In Salva Parva, the mind of a promiscuous woman always hankers for new lovers, even if she is married. An intelligent, a mind of a promiscuous woman always hankers for a new lovers, even if she is married. An intelligent man should not keep such an unchaste wife. An intelligent man should not keep such an unchaste wife, for if he does, he will lose his good fortune, both in this life and the next. O saintly lady, O princess, Lord Krishna says to Rukmini, O saintly lady, O princess, we deceived you only because we wanted to hear you speak like this. Indeed, everything you said in reply to my words is most certainly true. Whatever benedictions you hope for me in order to become free of material desires are ever yours, O fair and noble lady, for you are my unalloyed devotee. O sinless one, I have now seen first hand the pure love and chaste attachment you have for your husband. Even though shaken by my words, your mind could not be pulled away from me. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti quotes the following verse describing the pure love between Rukmini and Krishna. When the affectionate bond between a young man and a young woman can never be destroyed, even when there is every cause for the destruction of that relationship, the attachment between them is said to be pure love. This is the nature of the eternal loving affairs between Lord Krishna and his pure conjugal associate. Although I have the power to avert spiritual liberation, lusty persons worship me with a penance and vows in order to get my blessings for their mundane family life. Such persons are bewildered by my illusory energy. The word dampatya indicates the relation between the husband and wife. Lusty and bewildered persons worship the Supreme Lord to enhance this relationship, though they know He can free them from their useless attachment to temporary things. O Supreme Reservoir of Love, unfortunate are they who have, even after obtaining me, the Lord of both liberation and material riches, hanker only for material treasures. These worldly gains can be found even in hell, since such persons are obsessed with sense gratification. Hell is a fitting place for them. Fortunately, O mistress of the house, you have always rendered me faithful devotional service which liberates one from material existence. This service is very difficult for the envious to perform, especially for a woman whose intentions are wicked, who loves who lives only to gratify her bodily demands and who indulges in duplicity. Srila Jiva Goswami poses the following question. Since the devotional service easily awards one liberation, is not it possible that everyone will be liberated and the world will no longer exist? The great Acharya answers that there is no such danger, since it is very difficult for envious, duplicitous, sensuous persons to faithfully serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and there is no shortage of such people in the world. In all my palaces, I can find no other wife as loving as you. O most respectful one, Rukmini, when you were to be married, you disregarded all the kings who had assembled to seek your hand, and simply because you had heard authentic accounts of concerning me, you sent a Brahmana to me with your confidential message. When your brother, who had been defeated in the battle and then disfigured, was later killed during the gambling match on Aniruddha's wedding day, you felt unbearable grief. Yet, out of fear of losing me, you spoke not a word. By this silence, you have conquered me. Here, Lord Krishna refers to an event that will be described in the next chapter. Thus, Krishna's talks with Rukmini must have taken place after the marriage of Aniruddha. When you sent the messenger with your most confidential plan, and yet I delayed going to you, you began to see the whole world as void and wanted to quit your body, which could never have been given to anyone but to me. May this greatness of yours remain with you always. I can do nothing to reciprocate except joyfully thank you for your devotion. So Lord Krishna accepted with a great devotion his Rukmini as a beloved wife. Shukadeva Maharshi said, and so the self-satisfied Supreme Lord of the universe enjoyed the goddess of fortune, engaging her in lovers' talks and thus imitating the ways of human society. The Almighty Lord Hari, perceptor of all the worlds, similarly behaved like a conventional householder in the palaces of his other queens, performing the religious duties of a family man. इति श्रीमद्भागवते महापुराणे पारमहंस्यां संहितायां दशमस्कन्धे उत्तरार्धे कृष्णरुक्मिणी संवादो नाम षष्टितमोऽध्यायः. 60th chapter is completed. We are going to read the 61st chapter now. Bhagavantaniya Santatiya Varnane, Aniruddha Vivaha. So, Aniruddha is getting married. Aniruddha is Lord Krishna's grandson, Pradyumna's son. This chapter lists Lord Sri Krishna's sons and grandsons and other progeny. It also describes how Lord Brahma and Vishnu and Shiva respects Lord Krishna also. It also describes how Lord Balarama killed Rukmi at Aniruddha's marriage ceremony and how Lord Krishna arranged for his sons and daughters to be married. Not understanding the full truth about Sri Krishna, each of his wives thought that since he remained constantly in her palace, she must be his favorite wife. They were all entranced by the Lord's beauty and his loving conversations with him, but they could not agitate his mind with the charming gestures of their eyebrows or by any other means. Having attained as their husband, Lord Krishna, whom even the other gods like Brahma find it difficult to know in truth, the Lord's queens were always eager to associate with him. Thus, although each of them had millions of maidservants, they would personally render him menial services. At Aniruddha's wedding, Lord Balarama, Sri Krishna, and other Yadavas went to Rukmi's palace in the city of Bojakota. After the ceremony, Rukmi challenged Lord Balarama to a game of dice. In the first match, Rukmi defeated Balarama, whereupon the king of Kalinga laughed at the Lord, displaying all his teeth. Lord Balarama won the next match, but Rukmi refused to concede defeat. A voice that spoke from the sky announcing that Balarama had in fact won. But Rukmi is a brother of Rukmini, encouraged by the wicked kings, offended Lord Balarama by saying that while he was certainly expert at attending cows, he knew nothing about playing dice. Thus insulted Lord Balarama, angrily struck Rukmi's head. Rukmi angrily struck Rukmi dead with his club. The king of Kalinga tried to flee, but Lord Baladeva seized him and knocked out all his teeth. Then the other offensive kings, their arms, thighs, and heads, wounded by Balarama's blows, fled in all directions. Krishna expressed their approval nor disapproval of his brother-in-law's death, fearing he would jeopardize his loving ties with either Rukmini or Balarama. Lord Balarama and other Yadavas then seated Aniruddha and his bride on a fine chariot, and they all set off for Dwaraka. Shukavacha, the first look of the 61st chapter, in which we are seeing the Lord Krishna's family and sons and grandsons. Shukavacha, Ekaikashasta Krishna Putran, Dashabalaha, Ajijannanna, Ajijannamano Namoaniraha, Sarvatma Sampadaha. Shuka Maharshi said, each of Lord Krishna's wives gave birth to 10 sons who were not less than their father, having all his personal opulence. Lord Krishna had 16,108 wives, and thus this verse indicates the Lord got 161,080 sons, because each wife has got 10 sons. Because each of these princes saw that Lord Achyuta never left her palace. Each thought herself the Lord's favorite. These women did not understand the full truth about him. The Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura notes that Lord Krishna would leave the palaces only with the permission of his wives, and thus each one considered herself as his favorite. The Supreme Lord's wives were fully enchanted by his lovely lotus-like face, his long arms and large eyes, his loving glances imbued with laughter, and his charming talks with them. But with all their charms, these ladies could not conquer the mind of all-powerful Lord. The previous verse stated that Lord Krishna's queens could not understand the truth of the Lord. This truth is explained in the present verse. The Lord is all-powerful, full in himself with the infinite opulence. The arched eyebrows of these 16,000 queens enchantingly expressed their ladies' secret intentions through cowly smiling sidelong glances. Thus their eyebrows boldly sent forth conjugal messages. At even with these arrows of Cupid and with other means as well, they could not agitate Lord Krishna's senses. Thus, these women obtained as their husband the master of the goddess of fortune, although even great gods like Brahma do not know how to approach him. With ever increasing pleasure, they felt loving attraction for him, exchanged smiling glances with him, eagerly anticipated associating with him in ever fresh intimacy, and enjoyed in many other ways. Although the Supreme Lord's queens each had hundreds of maidservants, they chose to personally serve the Lord by approaching him humbly, offering him a seat, worshipping him with excellent paraphernalia, bathing and massaging his feet, giving him pan to chew, fanning him, anointing him with fragrant sandalwood paste, adoring him with flower garlands, dressing his hair, arranging his bed, bathing him, and presenting him with various gifts. Among Lord Krishna's wives, each of whom had 10 sons, I previously mentioned 8 principal queens. I shall now recite for you the names of those 8 queens' sons headed by Pradyumna. चारुचंद्रो विचारश्च चारुश्चतुषमो हरे प्रद्युम्न प्रमुखा जाता रुक्मिण्या नाम पिता रुक्मिण्या नवमां पिताः चारुदेशना सुदेशस्ना चारुदेहश्च वीर्यवान् सुचारश्चारुगुप्तश्च भद्रचारुस्तपापरः. 8th and 9th sloka of the 61st chapter. The meaning of this sloka: the first son of Queen Rukmini was Pradyumna, and also born of her were Gurudasena, Shudasena, and powerful Charudeha, along with Sucharu, Charugupta, Bhadracharu, Charuchandra, Vicharu, and Charu the 10th. None of these sons of Lord Hari was less than his father. All are equal to Krishna. The 10 sons of Satyabhama were Bhanu, Subhanu, Swarabhanu, Prabhanu, Bhanuman, Chandrabhanu, Brahadbhanu, Atibhanu. Atibhanu is the 8th son. Sribhanu and Pratibhanu, Sambha, Sumitra, Purujit, Satyajit, Sahasrajit, Vijaya, Chitraketu, Vasuman, Dravida, and Krutu were the sons of Jambavati. These 10 headed by Samba were their father's favorites. Srila Jiva Goswami translates the compound Pitra Samaptaha in this verse as highly regarded by their father. The word also indicates that these sons like their others are already mentioned were regarded as being just like their glorious father Lord Krishna. The sons of Nagnajit or Veera, Chandra, Asvasena, Chitragu, Vegavan, Usha, Ama, Sanku, Vasu, and opulent Kunti. Shruta, Kavi, Vrasha, Vrira, Subahu, Bhadra, Santi, Darsha, and Purnamasa were sons of Kalindi. Her youngest son was Somaka. Madura's sons were Praghosha, Gatravan, Simha, Bala, Prabala, Urdaga, Mahashakti, Saha, Oja, and Aparajita. Madura is also known as Lakshmana, true name for her. Mitravinda's sons were Vrika, Harsha, Anila, Gradra, Vardhana, Unnada, Mahamsa, Pavana, Vagni, and Kshuddhi. Sagramidit, Brahatsena, Sura, Praharana, Arjit, Jaya, Subhadra were the sons of Bhadra, together with Vama, Ayur, and Satyaka. Diptiman, Tamratapa, Tamratapta, and others were the sons of Lord Krishna and Rohini. Lord Krishna's son Pradyumna fathered the greatly powerful Aniruddha in the womb of Rukmavati, the daughter of Rukmi. O king, this took place while they were living in the city of Bhojakota. Lord Krishna's 8th principal queens are Rukmini, Satyabhama, Jambavati, Nagnajit, Kalindi, Lakshmana, Mitravinda, and Bhadra. Having mentioned all their sons, Shuka Mahaswami now refers to the sons of the other 16,000 queens, 16,100 queens, by mentioning the 2 principal sons of Queen Rohini, the foremost of the remaining queens. My dear king, the sons and grandsons of Lord Krishna's children number in the tens of millions. 16,000 mothers gave rise to this dynasty. King Parikshit said, how could Rukmi give his daughter to his enemy's son? After all, Rukmi had been defeated by Lord Krishna in the battle and was waiting for an opportunity to kill him. Please explain this to me. O learned one, how these two inimical parties became united through marriage. Anagatam atitam cha. Mystic yogis can perfectly see that which has not yet happened, as well as things in the past or present, beyond the senses, remote, or blocked by physical obstacles. Shuka Maharshi said, as at her Swayamvara ceremony, Rukmavati herself chose Pradyumna, who was the re-embodiment of Cupid, that is Kamadeva. Then, although he fought alone on a single chariot, Pradyumna defeated the assembled kings in the battle and took her away. Though Rukmi always remembered his enemy, lover toward Lord Krishna, who had insulted him, in order to please his sister, he sanctioned his daughter's marriage to his nephew. Then the answer to King Parikshit's question is given here. Ultimately, Rukmi approved his daughter's marriage to Pradyumna in order to please his sister Rukmini. O King Bali, the son of Kritavarma, married Rukmini's young daughter, large-eyed Charumati. Srila Sridhara Swami explains that each of the Lord's queens had one daughter. And this mention of Charumati's marriage is an indirect reference to the marriage of all these princesses. Rukmi gave his daughter Rochana to his daughter's son Aniruddha. Rukmi gave his granddaughter Rochana to his daughter's son Aniruddha, despite Rukmi relentlessly feud with Lord Hari. Although Rukmi considered this marriage irreligious, he wanted to please his sister, bound as he was by the ropes of affection. Srila Sridhara Swami explained that according to worldly standards, one should not give one's beloved granddaughter to the grandson of one's bitter enemy. But because they are in love, they supported the wedding of Aniruddha's marriage. Then, on the joyous occasion of that marriage, O King, Queen Rukmini, Lord Balarama, Lord Krishna, and several of the Lord's sons, headed by Shamba and Pradyumna, went to the city of Bhojakota. Bhojakota is the palace Rukmi constructed for himself, the place where he was defeated by Lord Krishna. After the wedding, a group of arrogant kings, headed by the king of Kalinga, told Rukmi, "You should defeat Balarama at dice. He is not expert at dice, O king, but still he is quite addicted to it." Thus advised, Rukmi challenged the Balarama and began a gambling match with him. In that match, Lord Balarama first accepted a wager of 100 coins, then 1,000, then 10,000. Rukmi won this first round, and the king of Kalinga laughed loudly at Lord Balarama, showing all his teeth. Lord Balarama could not tolerate this. Next, Rukmi accepted a bet of 100,000 coins, which Lord Balarama owned. But Rukmi tried to cheat, declaring, "I am the winner." Shaking with anger like the ocean on the full of moon day, handsome Lord Balarama, his naturally reddish eyes even redder in his fury, accepted a wager of 100 million gold coins. Lord Balarama fairly won this wager also, but Rukmi again resorted to cheating and declared, "I have won. Let these witnesses here say what they saw." Rukmi undoubtedly had his friends in mind when he called for the witness to speak, but even as his witness prepared to aid their cheating friend, a wonderful event took place as described in the next verse. Just then a voice was heard from the sky, declared, "Balarama has fairly won this wager. Rukmi is surely lying." Urged on by the wicked kings, Rukmi ignored the divine voice. In fact, destiny itself was urging Rukmi on, and thus he ridiculed Lord Balarama as follows. Rukmi said, "You cowards who wander about the forest know nothing about dice. Playing with the dice and sporting with arrows are only for kings, not for the boys like you." Thus insulted by Rukmi and ridiculed by the kings, Lord Balarama was provoked to anger. In the midst of the auspicious wedding assembly, he raised his club and struck Rukmi's head. The king of Kalinga, who had laughed at Lord Balarama and shown his teeth, tried to run away, but the furious Lord quickly seized him on his 10th step and knocked out all his teeth. Tormented by Lord Balarama's club, the other kings fled in fear, their arms, thighs, and heads broken, and their bodies drenched in blood. When his brother-in-law Rukmi was slain, Lord Krishna neither applauded nor protested, O king, for he feared jeopardizing his affectionate ties with either Rukmini or Balarama. Then the descendants of Dashara, headed by Lord Balarama, seated Aniruddha and his bride on a fine chariot and set off from Bhojakota for Dwarka. Having taken shelter of Lord Madhusudana, they had fulfilled all their purposes. Even though Rukmini was very dear to all the Dasaras, her brother Rukmi had constantly opposed and insulted Krishna since Rukmini's wedding. Thus, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains, associate of Lord Krishna could hardly lament Rukmi's sudden demise. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the 10th canto, 61st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and title is completed. Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsam Samhitaya Dashamaskande Uttararde Aniruddho Vivaha Rukmi Vado Namaika Shashtitamodhyayaha. We completed 2 chapters. And the next chapter is 62nd chapter, in which Usha and Aniruddha, they are meeting. The chapter accounts the meeting of Aniruddha and Usha, and also Aniruddha's battle with Banasura. Of 100 sons of King Bali, the oldest was Banasura. He was a great devotee of Lord Shiva who favored Banasura so much that even gods like Indra would serve him. Banasura once satisfied Shiva by playing musical instruments with his 1,000 hands while Shiva danced his Tandava Nritya. In response, Shiva offered Banasura whatever benediction he chose, and Banasura asked Shiva to become the guardian of his city. One day, when Banasura was feeling an urge to do battle, he told Lord Shiva, except for you in the whole world, there is no warrior strong enough to fight me. Therefore, these 1,000 arms you have given me are merely a heavy burden. Angered by these words, Lord Shiva replied, your pride will be crushed in battle when you meet my equal. Indeed, your chariot flag will fall to the ground broken. Banasura's daughter Usha once had an encounter with a lover in her sleep. Banasura's daughter Usha once had an encounter with a lover in her sleep. Several nights in a row this occurred, until one night she failed to see him in her dreams. She suddenly awoke, speaking aloud to him in a state of agitation, but when she noticed her maidservants around her, she felt embarrassed. Usha's companion, Chitralekha, asked her who she had been addressing, and Usha told her everything. Hearing of Usha's dream lover, Chitralekha tried to relieve her friend's distress by drawing pictures of Gandharvas and other celestial personalities, as well as various men of the Vishnu dynasty. Pick out the man she had seen in her dreams. And Usha pointed to the picture of Aniruddha. Chitralekha, who had mystic powers, knew at once that the young man her friend had pointed out was Lord Krishna's grandson Aniruddha, Pradyumna's son. Then, using her mystic powers, Chitralekha flew through the sky to Dwaraka, found Aniruddha, and brought him back with her Sonitapura, Banasura's capital. Sonitapura is Banasura capital. There she presented him to Usha. Having obtained the man of her desire, Usha began serving him very affectionately within her private quarters, which were supposed to be strictly off limits to men. After some time, the female gods of her inner palace noticed symptoms of sexual activity on Usha's person, and they went to Banasura to inform him. Greatly disturbed, Banasura rushed to his daughter's apartments with many armed guards, and to his great surprise, saw Aniruddha there also. As the guards attacked him, Aniruddha took up his club and succeeded in killing a few before the powerful Banasura could capture him with his mystic Nagapasha ropes, filling Usha with lamentation. Filling Usha with lamentation. So that is the incident of Usha and Aniruddha. They are meeting each other. बाणस्य तनया मूषमामापुये मे यदोत्तमः तत्र युद्धबोद्धोद्रः हरिशङ्करयोर्महत् एतत् सर्वमः योगिन् समाख्यातं तुमर्हसि. Parikshit asking Shuka Maharshi this. Parikshit asked the best of the Yadus married Banasura's daughter Usha, and as a result, a great fearsome battle occurred between Lord Hari and Lord Shankara. Please explain everything about this incident. O most powerful Shuka Maharshi said, Banasura was the oldest son of the 100 sons fathered by Bali Chakravarti, Bali Maharaja, who gave the whole earth in charity to Lord Hari. When he appeared as Vamanadeva, Banasura, born from Bali's semen, became a great devotee of Lord Shiva. His behavior was always respectable, and he was generous, intelligent, truthful, firm in his oaths. The beautiful city of Sonitapura was under his dominion. Because Lord Shiva had favored him, the very gods waited on Banasuras like menial servants. Once, when Shiva was dancing his Tandav Nritya, Banasura especially satisfied the Lord by playing a musical accompaniment with his 1,000 arms. The Lord and Master of all created beings, the compassionate refuge of his devotees, gladdened Banasura by offering him the benediction of his choice. Banasura chose to have him, Lord Shiva, as the guardian of the city. So Lord Shiva became the guardian of the city of Sonitapura. Banasura was intoxicated with his strength. One day when Lord Shiva was standing beside him, Banasura touched the Lord's lotus feet with his helmet, which shone like the sun, and spoke to him as follows. Namaste Tvam Mahadeva Lokanam Gurumeshwaram Pumsamapurna Kamanam Ranggripam. O Lord Mahadeva, I bow down to you, the spiritual master and controller of the worlds. You are like the heavenly tree that fulfills the desires of those whose desires are unfulfilled. These 1,000 arms you bestowed upon me have become merely a burden. Besides you, I find no one in the three worlds worthy to fight. According to Acharya Banasura's subtle implication here is this, and so when I have defeated you, Lord Shiva, my world conquest will be complete, and my desire for battle is satisfied. Eager to fight with elephants who rule the directions, O primeval Lord, I went forth pulverizing mountains with my arms, which were itching for battle. but even those great elephants fled in fear. Hearing this, Lord Shiva became angry and replied, "Your flag will be broken, fool, when you have done battle with one who is my equal. That fight will vanquish your conceit." Lord Shiva could have immediately chastised Banasura and personally destroyed his pride, but since Banasura had been such a faithful servant of this Shiva, did not do so. Thus advised, unintelligent Banasura was delighted. The fool then went home, O king, to wait for that which Lord Girisha had predicted, the destruction of his forest. The Banasura is described as Kudi, having bad intelligence, and Kumati, foolish, because of completely misunderstood the actual situation. In a dream, Banasura's daughter, the maiden Usha, had an amorous encounter with the son of Pradyumna, though she had never before seen or heard of her lover. Losing sight of him in her dream, Usha suddenly sat up in the midst of her girlfriends, crying out, "Where are you, my lover?" She was greatly disturbed and embarrassed because of her girlfriends. Coming to her senses and remembering that she was surrounded by her girlfriends, Usha was naturally very embarrassed to have cried out in that way. At the same time, she was disturbed by attachment to the beloved man who had appeared in her dream. Banasura had a minister named Kumbanda, whose daughter was Chitralekha, a companion of Usha's. She was filled with curiosity, and thus she inquired from her friend. Chitralekha said, "Who are you searching for? Oh, fine broad one. What is this hankering you are feeling? Until now, O princess, I haven't seen any man take your hand in marriage." Usha said, "In my dream, I saw a certain man who had dark blue complexion, lotus eyes, yellow garments, and mighty arms. He was the kind of who touches the woman's hearts. It is that lover I search for. After making me drink the honey of his lips, he has gone elsewhere, and thus he has thrown me, hankering fervently for him, into the ocean of distress." So Chitralekha is asking, "I will remove your distress. If he is to be found anywhere in the three worlds, I will bring this future husband of yours who has stolen your heart. Please show me who he is." Interestingly, the name of Chitralekha indicates a person skilled in the art of a drawing or painting. Chitra means excellent and variegated, and Lekha means the art of drawing the picture is painting. Chitralekha, as described in the following verse, will now utilize the talent indicated by her name. Saying this, Chitralekha proceeded to draw accurate pictures of various gods, Gandharvas, Siddhas, Charanas, Parangas, Daityas, Vidyadharas, Yakshas, and humans. O king, among the humans, Chitralekha drew pictures of the Vrishnis, including Surasena, Ankadunabu, Balarama, and Krishna. When Usha saw the picture of Pradyumna, she became bashful. When she saw Aniruddha's picture, she bent her head down in embarrassment. Smiling, she exclaimed, "He is the one, it is him." Chitralekha, endowed with mystic powers, recognized him as Krishna's grandson Aniruddha. "My dear king," she then traveled by the mystic skyway to the Dwaraka, the city under Lord Krishna's protection. There she found Pradyumna's son Aniruddha sleeping upon a fine bed. With her yogic power, she took him away to Sonitapura, where she presented her girlfriend Usha with her beloved. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments as follows in this universe. It is stated that our Chitralekha resorted to mystic power, Yogam Asista, Yogam Astita, as explained the Harivamsha, and other literatures. She needed to employ her powers because when she arrived at Dwarka, she found herself unable to enter Lord Krishna's city. At that time, Sri Narada Muni instructed her in the mystic art of entering. Some authorities also say that Chitralekha is herself an expansion of Yogamaya. When Usha beheld him, the most beautiful man, her face lit up with joy. She took the son of Pradyumna to her private quarters, which men were forbidden even to see, and there enjoyed with him. Usha worshipped Aniruddha with faithful service, offering him priceless garments along with the garlands, fragrances, incense, lamps, sitting places, and so on. She also offered him beverages, all types of food, and sweet words. As he thus remained hidden in the young lady's quarters, Aniruddha did not notice the passing of the days, for his senses were captivated by Usha, whose affection for him ever increased. The female gods eventually noticed unmistakable symptoms of romantic involvement in Usha, who, having broken her maiden vow, was being enjoyed by the Edu hero and showing signs of conjugal happiness. The gods went to Banasura and told him, "O king, we have detected in your daughter the kind of improper behavior that spoils the reputation of young girl's family." Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has defined the word Bataha as female gods, whereas Jiva Goswami defines it as eunuchs and others. Grammatically, the word can function both ways. The gods feared that if Banasura found out about Usha's activities from some other source, he would be severely punish them, and thus they personally informed him that his young daughter has won as the young daughter was no longer innocent. We have been carefully watching over her, never leaving her post, O Master, so we cannot understand how this maiden, whom no man can even see, has been corrupted with the palace. Very agitated to hear his daughter's corruption, Banasura rushed at once to the maiden's quarters. There he saw the pride of the Yadus, Aniruddha was there. Banasura saw before him Kamadeva's own son, possessed by unrivaled beauty with dark blue complexion, yellow garments, lotus eyes, and formidable arms. His face was adorned with effulgent earrings and hair, and also with smiling glances. As he sat opposite his most auspicious lover, playing with her at dice, there hung between his arms a garland of spring jasmines that had been smeared with kumkum powder from her breast when he had embraced her. Banasura was astonished to see her all this. Banasura was amazed at Aniruddha's boldness. The prince was calmly sitting in young girl's quarters, playing with Bana's supposedly unmarried daughter in the Banasura was amazed at Aniruddha's boldness. The prince was calmly sitting in the young girl's quarters, playing with Bana's supposedly unmarried daughter. In the context of the strict Vedic culture, this was an unbelievable thing of witness. Seeing Banasura enter with the many armed guards, Aniruddha raised his iron club and stood resolute, ready to strike anyone who attacked him. He resembled death personified, holding his rod of punishment. The club was not made of ordinary iron, but of a special kind called meru. As the guards converged on him from all sides, trying to capture him, Aniruddha struck them just as the leader of a pack of boars strikes back at dogs. Hit by his blows, the guards freed the palace. running for their lives with the shattered heads and thighs and arms. But even as Aniruddha was striking down the army of Banasura, that powerful son of Bali angrily caught him with the mystic Nagapasha ropes. When Usha heard of Aniruddha's capture, she was overwhelmed with grief and depression, her eyes filled with tears. And she wept. When Usha heard the Aniruddha's capture, she was overwhelmed with the grief and depression, her eyes filled with tears, and she started weeping. Acharya explains that Banasura could not actually capture the powerful grandson of Lord Krishna. However, the Lord's Leela, Shakti, or a pastime potency allowed this to happen so that the event described in the next chapter could take place. This iti Srimad Mahabhagavati Purane Paramamsyam Samhitayam Dashmaskande Uttararde Aniruddha Bando Nama Vishishtitamodyaya, 62nd chapter completed. नमोस्तरन्ताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षरभाव सहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाष्टये सहस्रकोटियुगधारिणे नमः सहस्रकोटियुगधारिणे नमः आकाशत्परिणम्यतागतसागरं सर्वदेव नमस्कारः श्रीकेशवं प्रगत्यो नमः सर्ववेदेशत्पुण्यं सर्वतीर्थेषु यत्फलं तत्फलं प्रणोप्य वासनात् वासुदेवस्य वासन्ते जगत्त्रयं सर्वभूतनिवासोऽसि वासुदेवनमस्ते कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावा करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायणायेति समर्पयामि।